Hi, this is Pim from Smart Diabetics Academy, and today I will talk to you a little bit about why it is that diabetes is so common. When I was a kid, many moons ago, I hadn't really heard about type 2 diabetes, but I had heard about diabetes because one of my best friends got diagnosed with diabetes when she was 5, I believe. And we called it the sugar sickness. That's kind of the common name if you translate it to Swedish anyway. When I was a kid, and I don't think it was until I was in my lower teens, something like that, that I first heard about adult onset of diabetes, which is now called type 2 diabetes. And at the time, I just kind of assumed that it was the same disease as type 1 diabetes, and that the only difference was that it developed when you were adult. So, as you know, this really isn't the cause, or the case, I should say. There are two very different diseases that present similar symptoms. So, as I grew up and I was hearing more and more about all these people that were developing diabetes, there were relatives, there were friends, parents. I have both aunties and uncles who have diabetes, and other people's grandparents, etc. And it just felt like this is really an epidemic, something that is spreading amongst the aging population. And it's a little bit weird considering that I hadn't even heard about it until my mid-teens. But all of a sudden it was just the most common disease ever, and it's just something that everyone has. It's normal. It's so common that it really actually scares me. It does scare me because when something becomes the norm, when something is really common, we normalize it. And there's nothing normal about having diabetes. When we think that is normal, we don't really take it seriously. We don't try to do something about it because everyone has it. And they're okay. Or are they? Or maybe that's the problem. If you are diabetic and you have diabetes, you kind of know that there is a mismatch between how you experience diabetes and how other people perceive it, because we normalize it. They think that, oh well, it's just one of those things that people get. It's no big deal. But when you actually have it, it can be a very big deal. For most people, it is a big deal. So the question is why it is so common. What happened? Why did everyone just start developing diabetes all of a sudden? So if you Google this, you will find all sorts of answers, probably. Generally, you will see something like increased rates of obesity and inactivity are the primary causes of type 2 diabetes. But that isn't entirely true. First of all, there are many diabetics who are not obese. But also, obesity is generally caused by the same thing as diabetes. So it's just another symptom. And the main reason is too much sugar in your diet. And people have wanted to prove this wrong. Say, no, it doesn't have to do with that. It has to do with our genes, blah, blah, blah. Genes play a part, but they play a part in so many people that we have to start questioning why such a large percentage of the population would be genetically susceptible to diabetes. It's not that there is anything wrong with the genes are just optimized for different fuel, and that fuel is not sugar. And we need to kind of take that into mind. We just want to make it normal and blame genetics so that we can continue eating in the terrible way that we are eating as a society, that is. So when I say that the main reason is sugar, I mean sugar. I mean sugar in all its forms. And I have made another video on starches and why it may be safe in terms of developing diabetes, but as soon as you introduce sugar, either on its own or on top of starches, you are in trouble. And to be honest, living in our society, I very much doubt that you will be able to stay away from sugar completely if you're eating any type of processed foods or even being healthy, because they say that you can have 10% of your calories as sugar, and that is fine. That is not fine. Really, it is not fine. Don't do that if you can help it. So sugar is problematic because, oh yeah, about the starch video, if you want to watch that one, you can go back and watch that one where I'm actually saying that if you're just eating starch and you don't eat any sugar, you're very unlikely to actually develop diabetes. So that could be a strategy, but it doesn't work in our society. So that's what I wanted to highlight. So when I'm talking about sugar, normal table sugar is what we usually think about when we're talking about sugar. And that is a molecule. It consists of two molecules. So it's a molecule of fructose and a molecule of glucose. And when we digest that, it separates. So the glucose part is the part that will raise your blood sugar. That is what we can monitor. But the fructose part is actually the part that is doing most damage when it comes to causing your insulin resistance. So that is the thing that we need to be careful of. If we could just eat pure glucose, which is pretty much what we're doing when we're eating starches, we might not develop diabetes. I'm not saying that it's going to be healthy for you, but you might not develop diabetes doing it that way. But that is pretty much impossible. So if you want to prevent diabetes, what you need to do is, and you like your carbs, that is, stay away from sugar in all its forms, all of the time if you can. That goes for natural sugars as well as processed sugars. They all act in the same way in your body. It doesn't really matter where they come from because they're getting broken down and then they act in the way that the other sugars do. So you might have been told that fruit is good for you and you should have, or there's no problem having several pieces of fruit. It's just 1 or 2 of your 5 a day and that's healthy. In fact, fruit is terrible for you. If you're diabetic, it's awful. You really, really should stay away from fruit. There are no safe fruits when you're diabetic. They contain very little vitamins and minerals in general and a lot of sugar. So considering what you get out of them, the price you have to pay for it is way too high if you're diabetic. And something else that I'm going to talk about in the next video is that all fruits we have today have been manipulated to contain a lot more sugar than the natural fruit would have done. So don't come and tell me that fruit is good for you. Fruit is good for me. It's not good for me. It's not good for you. It's not good for anyone, okay? Don't come and tell me that we have evolved to eat fruit, because we have not evolved to eat the fruits that are on our planet right now, the fruits that we're eating. There's still some wild fruits that you might be able to find if you're in the right place, but no one wants to eat them because they're horrible. So the fruits that we have available to us now are so much sweeter than the natural ones, and they're so much tastier, and that is on purpose so that we want to eat more of them. Anyhow, I'm not going to ramble on about the fruit because in my next video I am actually going to be talking about fruit, because it's such an emotional subject to most people who are going low carb or trying to stay away from carbs, and they think that if I'm eliminating the donuts, the pizza, the bread, the pasta, the ice cream, the candies, you name it, I can have fruit instead and I'm being healthy. It doesn't quite work that way, and I want to show you why. So if you like this video, please give me a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. And you can also press that little bell icon down there so that you will get a notification whenever I'm posting my next video. And you don't want to miss the next one, which is going to be all about the fruits and what they used to look like and what they are looking like today. So I will see you in the next video.